this is Animat, and welcome back to the Muppet Vlog. Now this time we're going to be looking into the 23rd episode of the 3rd season of The Muppet Show, which features Lynn Redgrave. Now for those of you who don't know who Lynn Redgrave is, she is actually known to be a triple threat in the acting community. Known to be prominently featured on film, television, and on stage, but most notably, she is very prominent in terms of getting nominations for numerous of awards, including the major big ones. She actually got several Golden Globe nominations, and even won a few, for her performance in Georgie Girl, and also Gods and Monsters. But on top of that, she also got 3 nominations for a Tony Award for her performance in Mrs. Warren's Profession, Shakespeare for My Father, and also The Constant Wife. She also got nominated for a Grammy Award for her performance in The Witches, or at least what she did in there. And finally, she even got a few nominations for an Oscar for the same roles that she actually won a Golden Globe Award for Georgie Girl and Gods and Monsters. So she definitely established herself very well as an actress. And in terms of the episode that she appeared in, it's actually worth noting that on this episode in particular, this is supposed to be the season finale when this was airing on television. And what's very interesting to note about that is that in here, they did something that is entirely different than any other episode of The Muppet Show. What they basically did is that throughout the entire episode, it was all dedicated to a performance of Robin Hood. And in here, they pretty much took away all the common tropes that you would find in a regular Muppet Show. There's no miscellaneous sketches where like you could take one out and you could place it wherever you want and it wouldn't change the flow of any other episode of the Muppet Show. So no miscellaneous sketches. There's also no moment where they would sing a well-known song, or at least a song that has already been covered by someone else. In here, they actually sang purely original songs that were made for this episode in particular, and you could tell because they were mostly singing songs like whenever Kermit would be with Maid Marian, which in this case is Lynn Redgrave, she would mostly sing and reminisce about her love for Kermit despite him being a frog and she is a human. So you could tell that there is a bit of originality, so there's no moment that they would actually sing a popular song. Not even take some of the songs from the Disney version of Robin Hood, considering by the time that episode was released, Robin Hood was still a fairly new movie. It was like a few years old, but still relatively fresh from theaters. But other than that, it's you actually do still get many of the same elements of the Muppets. Like, you tell this is a Muppet production of Robin Hood, but even though it is really shortened, like, I think the most Muppety moment that they would get is that Gonzo would play the role of the Sheriff of Nottingham, and there is a torture scene where Gonzo wanted to torture Maid Marian to tell where is Robin Hood's hideout, but like, Gonzo was so excited to show how the torture things work to Maid Marian that he was the one that ends up being tortured, and even while he's being tortured, it's like, are you ready to talk now? But yeah, that's pretty much the most Muppety that you could ever get, especially like when they would do the classic style of torturing. And like, you know, it's basically a little bit reminiscent to the John Cleese episode where Gonzo's arm would completely stretch out. The same thing pretty much happens here. Other than that, like, in terms of the story of what they want to tell with Robin Hood, it's very condensed. I mean, keep in mind, they only had about 25 minutes worth of a whole episode, and what they had to do is just cut off to just show some of the more main scenes. Basically, we just see like the opening where all the Muppets are pretty much cavorting and just celebrating and having fun, and then you see the dungeon scenes with Maid Marian, also the rescue as well, and on top of that, yes, there's also the Archer scene. So it's basically condensed down to your common Superman story, but at least that's just in terms of what they could show in the Muppet Show itself. But there is a few interesting twists to it, and that's where actually Miss Piggy would come in. Considering there isn't really a lot of other male roles in the original production, or at least in the original tale of Robin Hood, like Maid Marian is the only female character that is presented in there. Miss Piggy really wanted to make sure she has a part in there, and the most that Kermit could do is actually make her play as Sister Tuck. And then what happens afterwards, she actually ends up being the bad guy of the, not just the show, but like the episode in general, where she wanted to pretty much dominate the whole part. She wanted to fully become Maid Marian and kidnap Lynn Redgrave and pretty much lock her up in her dungeon, which is the dressing room. And then you get that whole sequence happening in there. Like, I would like to explain more, but then it would kind of go into spoiler category, but it is still definitely worth watching, because the material that they would bring up and the gags are just absolutely perfect. And you do get a few throwbacks from previous episodes. Like I said before, like, you do get Gonzo's arm stretching, like from the John Cleese episode, but also a few other factors as well. Like, other Muppets do play several parts as well. Like, Scooter would be Alan Adale, and they do try a little bit, trying to show that considering that Scooter does have a part now, he needs to have some help backstage to, you know, bring out the sets and all that kind of stuff. Like, they try to show a little bit, like, Beauregard would be handy for it, but then that kind of got dropped off really fast. And if there are any other moments that I can think of... Oh, actually, other characters. Well, there is also Fozzie. He is prominently featured as well, being Little John. And I think, like, his moment to shine was definitely at the beginning, where you see, like, he's trying to help people, trying to properly cavort around, like, just going cavort, 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 cavort. Definitely fantastic. Honestly, there really isn't much else to say. Well, this is the thing with this episode. Considering that it's a lot more different than all the other ones, you don't get miscellaneous sketches, you don't get musical numbers where they sang actual songs. Like, all the songs in here, there are musical moments, but they're all original. So it definitely is a bit of a, like, it's a bit surprising to enter upon this after watching all the other episodes. You get something that is totally different. But I would say, overall, this is definitely the most unique episode that I've ever seen. But it's still a lot of fun nonetheless. Like, it basically speaks for itself when I say that this episode is the Muppet production of Robin Hood, but really condensed. It's just less than 30 minutes long, but you still have a lot of fun with it. You still have great moments with Kermit, Fozzie, Miss Piggy, Gonzo, and all the other Muppet characters. So, like, technically, I can imagine, like, maybe in the future, they could actually take the story of Robin Hood and, like, they can make it much longer, like, make it an hour and a half production. Like, they can actually kind of do it in the style of, like, what they did with Christmas Carol or Treasure Island, and make it a full feature film to see the extended version of this episode, but it's pretty much condensed down to 30 minutes just for the sake of the Muppet Show. But still, I had a lot of fun watching it, and although it's hard to say, like, how it is as an episode itself, considering that it is much more different than all the others, but I would still say it definitely is a lot of fun. But anyways, that is pretty much it for this episode of the Muppet Vlog, so I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see if the next episode can get back to normal, and I would actually coordinate my brain to know, like, how an actual episode of the Muppet, or a common episode of the Muppet Show would work. So, we will only know until next time, so see you later, dudes!